Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Nate. So appreciate you guys coming back for another episode. If you haven't seen part 1 and 2, I go ahead and check those out. They are going to be my basic training and my AIT experience. And part 3, guys, this is the one you've all been waiting for. This is going to be the experience of everything post training. So what actually happened in the National Guard? Okay, what actually happened in the military side once all that training was done. So just want to let you guys know, just a quick upfront disclaimer, I have not deployed anywhere. So I haven't deployed or had any sort of combat deployments. So if you guys are gonna tune in for some, high octane combat story, this is not the video for you. But if you want to hear about all of the other stuff that the National Guard does and what we're used for and a couple of things that we're involved in, then hey, you're in the right place. So go ahead and jump in. So when I talk about my military experience, like I've already talked about in part 1 and part 2, one of the biggest things I like to highlight is the pros, the cons, and just the overall story. So again, if I miss something or something's not super clear, guys, go ahead and drop a comment below. I'd love to be able to reply to you and kind of help out with some things. Also, in my first 2 videos, I kind of sweated through my shirt, so I had to change here. So if you're wondering how I went from that to, that explains it. So yeah, hey, I promise my AC is working, okay? So everything's good. So guys, part 3, National Guard experience, right? So when I first wanted to join the National Guard, man, I think when I really think about it, one of the biggest reasons was in Texas, we had some really bad floods. And I think it was around 2014, 15, somewhere in there. Maybe it was even 16. But we had some really bad floods. And I remember we were watching the TV, and there was some helicopters and the National Guard was called in to help. And that's when I remember really wanting to join it, really going, that is really neat, Didn't really know what the National Guard was. I knew they existed, but I didn't really know anything about them. Started doing some research and started to figure out that, hey, they're dual run. They're run by the state, they're run by the federal government. They have the same training as the rest of the military. We're the combat support if we ever do deploy. And so I was like, well, this seems really cool. They also ended up having the best schooling benefits at the time for college. So I was like, well, hey, this is a no-brainer. I've always wanted to join. I know I want to go to college. Let's do this. So part 1, I go into that a little bit about that whole signing up process, but fast forward after all that training, once I was actually in my unit. So my unit was pretty cool. I drilled at the same location for my 6-year contract. I met a lot of awesome people, met really only one person that I went through my training with, and I didn't even know that I trained with them until I was in the unit. So most of the people, now I think about it, most of the people in my unit, a lot of the people I ended up serving the whole 6 years with, people who were going to stay in for their full 20, or people who just loved what they did. I served with them the whole time, but I also served with a few people who they ended up moving or getting out, or they just some people just don't show up, guys. I'm going to be real with you. There's, if you want to look into, I don't recommend this at all, but when it comes to the reserves and National Guard, you can get away with some things. So I'll just leave that to you to do the research on. And when I was in my unit, man, the first couple months, pretty chill. They didn't really have me do a whole lot because I was brand new. I actually got a couple months off once I was back from training. I didn't really go to my unit. So once I got back from training, it was March of 2017. And then I didn't go to my unit. I really didn't have any contact with them, I believe, until maybe May or June. I ended up coming in one day to help them with the annual training. So in the National Guard or the reserves, you're going to have annual training, which is normally 2 to 3 weeks every year during the summer. Every month you're going to have a weekend drill. The reason I put quotes is because back in the day it used to be about a weekend. Most of the time it's going to be about 3 to 4 days. You will have some 2 days here and there, sometimes one day. And then depending on your unit, how they use the days of drill, you might even have a month, maybe two, of no drill. So it really just depends. But I helped them with that, got to meet some people. They went to their annual training. I didn't have to go with them since I already met the quota for the like active duty training for the year. So I really didn't do anything with them, I think, until maybe the next month when they came back, or the month after. I helped with the recovery once they came back, getting everything back in supply, but still kind of, just kind of figuring things out and going along for the ride. But, I enjoyed it. Well, it wasn't until my first day of college. So my first day of college, I was super excited about that. The way I had my classes scheduled was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8 a.m. until 12. So I had my 8, 9, 10, 11 class all back to back, 3 days a week. And after that, I was done. So I had the rest of the day. I had Tuesday, Thursday, I was chilling. Now I also had ROTC, and I'll make another video on that because that's a whole video in and of itself. But my first day of college, my last class is over, and my sergeant in my unit gives me a call, and he says, "Hey," at the time I was a private, "Hey, get your stuff. You are being activated for Hurricane Harvey." I'm like, what? And so over the last couple of days, there was, if you don't know, there was a really bad hurricane that hit back in 2017 in late August. Yeah, late August. And it was one of the worst hurricanes ever. Really, really bad for Texas. It was what they call like one in a century storms. The flooding was insane. And for a couple days leading up to when I was activated, I was hearing some things and I didn't know what was going to happen, but I actually did get called in. So I went, this is my first day of college. I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm like, okay, like I just started school, like great. So I go back to my dorm. I don't have any of my military gear there. It's all at home, which is about an hour away from where I was going to school. So I give my mom a call. She's working from home, and I'm like, "Hey, Mom, like I'm being activated for the hurricane. I gotta come home, get my stuff, and go." And so I went home, got my stuff, and I went to my unit, which was about 45 minutes away from where I lived. So once I got to my unit, it was only myself and like one other person. I'm like, where is everybody? Well, again, I'd only been in the National Guard for like a few months. I didn't realize that most people were either working full time, they had families and stuff like that. Two, in the National Guard, as I found out, you should always take it seriously, but the sense of urgency isn't quite there like it is on the active side of things. Even though I'd never really served on the active duty side, from being in training for 7 months, I just thought everything was, very, very strict. Come to find out that just wasn't the case. But anyway, some people showed up later on that night. Most people ended up coming in that next morning. I thought this was like I'm being called in, like I'm gonna get there, everybody's gonna be like in the vehicles, ready to go. That's not what happened. I actually ended up getting there, having all my stuff, and people didn't start coming in until like the next day for the most part. Okay, this is the most part. And once they started coming in, we started getting all the plans together. There was something as far as hurricane response goes, but it was just kind of a whole, I'm gonna be honest with you, just a shit show. But leadership, people, officers, sergeants came together, made it happen. It was actually really surprising to see how we were able to respond, not really knowing how to respond. Again, there was an SOP, there was doctrine, there was a book, there was something somewhere that kind of explained how to do it, but National Guard really, really got it together after a few days and made it happen. So anyway, I got called up, and it was weird because the orders were state active duty, so it really didn't pay a whole lot at all, which was something frustrating. If people had to leave their jobs, a lot of their jobs, from what I understood, weren't paying them the difference. So they were like losing money. So it was very stressful, very frustrating for a lot of people. And honestly, guys, the reason a lot of people join the National Guard, like I did it for school. I did it because I was young. Like, I just wanted to do something. I wanted to, serve my country, help when things happen. But a lot of people join because of the insurance, the health insurance. That is 100% the reason that a lot of people join. That's not a bad reason to join. If you're willing to put in the time, you're willing to put in the effort, you're willing to be there, do what needs to get done because you want to have good health insurance, good affordable health insurance for you and your family, by all means. But once rubber met the road and once it was time to actually perform and actually be called in for state, disaster, things were rough on some people. It was rough on me. I mean, it was like I'd been out of the training for a few months, and all of a sudden I was thrown into this, and I'm like, am I going to go back to school? Like, I don't know what's happening. And so I was at the hurricane mission. I was on orders for, I believe it was 18 days. Now, those 18 days felt like an eternity. The reason was, one, it's a very, very high pressure. It was a very high stress environment because, one, again, we're kind of learning as we go. Two, once we actually start driving down to where the coastal regions are, and even I'm talking like not even super coastal, I'm talking like Houston and some of those surrounding areas, like it flooded out a lot of major areas. We're driving up there, we're bringing MREs with us, we're bringing our wet weather gear, we're sleeping in high school gymnasiums on cots. We're getting orders every 3 or 4 days. Like, we're going to get a set of orders that say you have been activated from, just as an example, September 22nd to September 25th, August 22nd through August 25th. And then we get another set of orders saying you've been extended from August 25th to August 29th. And it was like, we would hear stories like, oh yeah, like we're almost done, we're gonna get to go home. But then the governor, because we're state and federally run, we would have those orders come through, and the governor would be like, yeah, we still need the National Guard, like we got to keep going here. And so we were going around, we're helping people. I didn't do a whole lot of the rescue stuff. My unit really didn't do a whole lot of that. We did a lot of the logistics. We made sure that people were supplied. We made sure things were running. We helped with local areas with like food drives, supply drives. A lot of people, guys, you don't think about it, but a lot of people didn't have things like toiletries. So we made sure that people had like toothpaste, and that they had toothbrushes and toilet paper. And if we had food available, we made sure they had food, snacks, things like that, water. We would make sure that they were taken care of. And guys, I'm gonna be real with you. Like, I grew up in Texas my whole life, but until that mission, I didn't really understand how just incredible Texans were. How incredible, how hospitable. Like, these people, we would go down to where they lived, and like, I'm telling you, like, we would spend the night at like a high school gymnasium for a couple nights, and then we would go, like, I spent a few nights at an RV park, like inside of the main building. And then I spent a few nights inside an airplane hangar. Like, I kid you not. It was crazy. And towards the end, I spent the night in a city hall. Like, I slept in a city hall for like, it seemed like a week or 10 days or so. So interesting times, guys. But the people, like, we're coming up, like, it's our job. It's what we signed up for. Like, we signed up to help these people. We signed up to say, yeah, like, if something happens, we're gonna help you. We're coming to them, and these people are treating us with such kindness. Like, if they're able to, like, bring us meals, like, these people are like bringing us like home cooked meals, or they're finding local like restaurants, or restaurants that are kind of far away that aren't closed down, buying trays of food. Like I remember eating a lot of Mexican food, like enchiladas and things like that. And guys, that beats having an MRE every meal. Okay, it absolutely does any day. And I am the type of person, I'm crazy. I love MREs. I know that's a weird thing to say. There's a couple of them I can't stand. Chili and beans, guys, don't recommend it. But guys, they were incredible. They were going out of their way to help us, and I'm like, what? Like, we're here to help you. Like your homes are gone. Like your community is destroyed. You need our help. And these people are like, yeah, but we're still gonna help you. Like we're like Texas, you know. It was incredible, guys. It really was like a life-changing experience. We had this card. I have some pictures on my phone, and I don't really put it out there just because it's very I guess I would just say like sacred. But this card, it was a really nice card. It was kind of big, right? And it was like this big like poster card type of thing, and they like bedazzled like the American flag on one side, and they put they put some pictures in it, I believe, and then they wrote like on one side of this big page like a really nice note to us saying like, you know, we really appreciate you guys coming down, and we know that God is with you and he's with us, and he's going to see us all through this. And it's amazing to see what the National Guard can do. And I'm like, that's pretty incredible. Like right now, as I'm talking about it, I'm getting kind of emotional about it. I'm trying not to get too emotional, but seeing that, guys, and just remembering that, it really was something. It was probably my proudest moment in the National Guard, and I'd only been in for like a few months, and I'd still have years to go after, but it was just incredible. But anyway, once we were down there, you know, spending the night different places, and by the end, guys, you know, it was crazy. I had in my journal, we were told, like, I remember the last 3 days we were there, we were told like, yeah, guys, like be ready to go, like have your stuff packed, like we're going home. And then we were told literally within, you know, the next few hours, well, guys, you know, we could be called back at any time. And then I remember there was a day we were supposed to go, and somebody heard it wrong, and we weren't. Like we were all lined up ready to go in vehicles. Turns out that wasn't true. Ended up staying another day or two. And then even on our way back, we were told like, guys, if they want at any time, we could just be told to turn around. So like, we're not really home. And even if we're home, they could just call us right back. So be prepared, because there was still other units down there. And so for like the next week, I remember, especially once I got back home, finally, you know, I say finally, it was only 18 days, but it was so chaotic. After 18 days, I remember just being home, being like thankful and just like not taking things for granted. I remember seeing people, we were driving through super flooded areas. It was crazy. I remember, I have a video on my phone too. We were driving through the water, and the water was like an inch before it was coming through like the windows of the Humvee, and like there was water like splashing in, and there was like water on the ground. And I'm like, you know, just another inch or two of water, and like we would have capsized the Humvee. Like we would have, like we were being told what to do in case like you get capsized. But the reality is, if you start getting water flooding into a Humvee, you have seconds to get out, or you're dead, because you got gear on, you got all this stuff, like you gotta act fast. And so when we were there, I remember driving down the street, and there was it was like a department grocery store or something. And I remember it was like the whole, like the surrounding area around this like grocery store was flooded. And up on where the grocery store was, like the parking lot was flooded. It was weird. I remember seeing people just like packed up like at the entrance of that grocery store, and it was like the only area of like dry ground, and like there's just a bunch of people stacked up there. And I'm like, one, how did they get up there? Two, that's really sad. Three, can they even get in there? And I was just like, you know, it was just weird. It was like I was watching like, it was something out of like The Walking Dead. I was just like, man, this is crazy. And I remember going to another area. We were being called out. We again didn't go out and do the actual, like I didn't go out and do any sort of like rescue, like water missions, but we were called out. Some other people did. We were with them. We stayed behind, watched the vehicles. Then we were told to leave. Like, they came back, and we went back to where we were staying because we were told that there was shots like fired in the area. People looting, people shooting. Like, it was crazy. And one of the other things there that was really impactful, towards the end, we ended up helping a lot of people. Like, we would just do random like missions. So it was actually kind of cool because we would stay at like, this really started to happen once we were at the city hall. The city hall was nice because it was dry. It was away from a lot of craziness. Kind of the city hall was off by itself, and we kind of had a nice little area to just chill out. And my particular like company, they split us up into different like recovery mission companies. We got to do a lot of missions, which was really neat. So our sergeant would come in and she'd be like, "Hey, you guys get ready. We got to go on a mission here." And we would go. We'd bring like MREs to people. We'd bring food, supplies. We would a couple of random things. We would sometimes some of the big vehicles got stuck in the mud, so we'd go out and help get them out of the mud. Towards the end, we started doing we started helping people. Like, the houses were like completely flooded out, and so we would go in after like the waters receded. I remember we went to this one old lady's house, and she wasn't all right in like the head. I remember she was in like a wheelchair, and it was a few of us soldiers in there. I just remember she was, everything she had in that house, it was like memorabilia from, I think her husband had passed away and stuff, and it was just all ruined. It was just sad. And we were just gutting the place. Like, we were basically just tearing out all the carpet, throwing away everything that basically couldn't be salvaged, which was almost everything. We did pretty much everything besides taking a hammer to the walls and smashing the house down. And it was just sad. Got a picture of that too. But yeah, it was. But there was some good things mixed in. Like I said, the card, like that was a really like nice gesture. One night, we got to go. There was a local by the city hall. There was a local. Again, we were in a kind of a drier area that really hadn't been hit too badly, and we got to go to a like high school football game or something. But if you're hearing this, you might be like high school football game. Well, the second thing was we got free Chick-fil-A, which was pretty cool. So cannot complain about that, especially when you're eating MREs, you're eating, pretty much the same food over and over, like a lot of catered, like just trays of like I said, Mexican food, over and over and over. So it's like anything is great. And we had this saying, a lot of our sergeants, a lot of people had deployed, they'd been to like actual combat and stuff. This was its own kind of thing. This was, even for them, a lot of this was very stressful, and they just kept saying, "Hey, hunt the good stuff, hunt the good stuff, like hunt the good stuff." And I remember I have some pictures, I wrote some things in my journal, just saying, "Hey, like hunt the good stuff," because it's so easy to get into that, like, I'm never gonna leave here, nothing's ever gonna get better, everywhere I go I see destruction, everywhere I go I see people suffering, like, is this ever gonna end? But then you would go, okay, you know what? This is why I'm here. Just those occasional like thank yous by people, like thank you for your service actually meant something. I remember when I was going through like the airports when I was in training, I wasn't even done with training yet, and people would say like, "Thank you for your service," and I'm like, dude, I don't even have like a unit patch on, like I'm fresh out of training, or I'm like in between training. And when I was in helping down near the Gulf Coast with all that during Hurricane Harvey, it just became real for me. And that's when I was like, like this is the reason like God called me here. And to this day, I'll still look back. Like, there'll still be days where I'm like, man, life is tough. And then I'll go back and I'll see those pictures, and I'll go back and I'll read those journal entries, and I'll go, you know what? yeah, but you were a really stressed out 19-year-old kid, man, and like you made it through. Like that was for a reason. Like I don't believe that there's anything. I don't think chance is really a thing. I think destiny is a thing, and I think I chose the National Guard, and then I was put there for a reason. I think everybody was, like put there for a reason. I think we came together, we made it happen, and I was just proud. Like I was very proud. That was really a good foundation for the rest of my career because I was like, whatever happens, like let's do this. So after the hurricane thing, man, after that, it became quite a bit easier to adapt. Um, Went back to school. I was thinking about dropping. A lot of people were dropping college because they didn't know. I remember talking to my parents at the time, and I'm like, first day of college, I get called out to this thing, and I don't know if I'm coming back. It's already been over 2 weeks. I'm like, hey, just hold in there, just wait, give it a month or more and just see what happens. Thankfully, it didn't come to that, and I didn't have to. And I said, you know what? I'll bite the bullet. I'll see what happens. I missed 18 days of school. Of course, I let my professors know. They knew what was going on. I wasn't the only one gone from the college because of Hurricane Harvey. But yeah, thankfully at that time in my life, I didn't really have to work. I was getting the military's a little bit of like the Montgomery GI Bill for the reservists. And then I had some money saved up from when I was working and then in the military. So I didn't have to worry about work, but with ROTC and everything, I remember I'd wake up, ROTC, PT, go to class, I'd come back, take like a quick nap, and then I would just be doing homework for all day, for the rest of the day, like eight hours a day. Sometimes I'd take a break, go to the gym, which was cool because it was right across the street, and then I would come back and just keep doing school, and I got out of it. So I was like, you know what, I can do it. Like it's no big deal. I didn't fail any classes that semester, didn't have to drop anything. So that was a huge blessing. Now later on in the National Guard, honestly, things were pretty smooth. I remember a lot of it was just drilling, like especially lower enlisted, E1 to E4, private through specialist. You don't really have to worry about a whole lot outside of drill. You just have to keep up with what your sergeants tell you. Make sure you bring your gear to drill. You'll be doing a lot of layouts. You'll just bring a lot of your gear to supply. I don't know what's up, but like it seemed like every other month we would do a check of our gear, especially towards the end of my contract, which was funny. But yeah, we just show up to drill, man, and just kind of do what they told us. Like it was a lot of basic stuff, man, like motor pool. We check all the vehicles. We pull everything out of supply. We do some administrative stuff, make sure our medical stuff was up to date once a year, dental, PT tests. You do normally do one of those like twice a year. You do like a diagnostic and then you do an actual, make sure you pass those so you get promoted. Just come with a good attitude, man. Like just be on time. I was only late one time in 6 years for drill. And that one time was because I forgot my military ID card at home. And funny enough, that one time that I was late, a lot of other people were late. And I even think that that morning in particular, there wasn't even a formation. We just all met in like our common area of our training area, like where our company met inside the building. So we just like come in and sit at the table and just kind of be told what to do. So I was like, wow, that's a huge blessing. Like I wasn't late to formation. I wasn't in trouble. They're just like, yeah, like, dude, it's no big deal. I'm like, okay. So that was pretty sweet. But drill, guys, honestly, it varies. My favorite was probably the range. So you'd go to the range for like 3 days. You drive down, get your weapon, go to the range, you get to shoot, qualify. As time went on, I don't know if it's just the scope I had, if I was just getting better at shooting, but towards the end of my 6 years, my last range, like I got like an expert score. I'm like, that's pretty sweet. Like, I was getting better at shooting, just pay attention, just have fun with it. I remember in basic, I don't know what it was, if it was me, if it was my rifle, it was both. I could like barely qualify. I was like, do I really suck at shooting? Like I always thought I was a pretty good shooter, before I joined the military, I grew up, shooting guns and stuff. Lived out close to the country and would go with my dad and some friends and go shooting sometimes. And it's like, I was like, what? But the range was fun. AT, annual training, the 2 to 3 weeks of training could be fun. So my first one was like a joint training exercise. We had a lot of people from the military, different branches too. We even had people from foreign militaries come in. And I remember, I think there was like NATO, like I think we had people from like Europe. We had, I even want to say like South America. Like we had some people maybe from like Brazil. It was really cool. It was a huge exercise. I got to work with the what are they called? The human intelligence, 35 mics. I got to work with them. So that was cool. I got to learn a little bit about like interrogation techniques. We got to do like mock interrogations, learn a lot of different things. We got to watch like a camera, and then I actually got to like interrogate somebody, which was cool. Got to learn a lot of different like tactics. We went out to a little field, did some tactics in a village, arrested people, questioned them. It was cool. It was a really fun time. But really, honestly, the rest of the year, guys, you just have to kind of base it like it sucks having to spend a weekend away. But honestly, it was cool because you get to see people you hadn't seen in a month. You get to talk about a lot of stuff. You'll have a lot of time to talk to a drill because a lot of drills just don't have a whole lot going on. At the time of this video, yes, we've had a little bit of conflicts, but we haven't really had anything crazy. There's not really been like a world war or anything huge like that recently. So not a whole lot to do. Just be at the right place at the right time. But yeah, drills were cool, man. ATs later on, so I got to go to Pennsylvania for like 2 weeks. One time, so one of the biggest parts of my 6 years was actually when COVID hit. So this was another thing. So when COVID hit, nobody knew what was going on. And I remember one day we were told like, yeah, you guys are gonna come in and help with the COVID response. And I'm like, whoa, like, we had only seen what we've seen. Like obviously everybody was seeing different things. Like if you were online, some people were seeing videos about this and that, and it was like, whoa. And it was like, yeah, so we got called up for that. We got called for that response. And again, that was one of those things. We were just kind of like, okay, this is how we're going to do it day by day. That was an interesting experience because at that point, college, the university I was going to, long story short, I was coming up on the end of my lease at the apartment that I was in at the time with one of my roommates. And so we just decided, I said, hey man, there's so much going on in the world. I think I'm just going to go home, figure it out. Like they're shutting down everything. And so like the job I was working at that time, they had shut down, like sending people home. And up until then, I was living those few months before COVID, I was like having the time of my life. I was super social. I was going out, partying, clubbing. I was meeting a lot of people, having fun, probably a little too much fun. Made a lot of good memories, but also looking back, I was like, man, like kind of wasted a lot of time too. But that's just life. You live and learn. So COVID was kind of a blessing in disguise because it kind of put a stop to a lot of that. And I kind of slowed down, and like for the first time in my life, I actually like slowed down, and everything just kind of like stopped, as we're all aware. And we got called up for that. I got called away from the job I was working at. The position I was in at my job was essential, but I got called up. The military orders trumped that, and so I came in, and it was one of those like, hey guys, we don't know how long this is going to be. Well, I ended up spending about 96 days on active duty, I think. And the way it worked is it counted towards active duty time. I actually got a GI Bill, like the post 9/11, 50% of it because of that. And spent about 3 months. We were staying in hotels, 1 to a room. It kind of sucked. It was kind of cool. Like all we did was really work out. We'd go to a local gym that was still open, free for military. We'd work out. I remember just working out for like an hour and a half, 2 hours every day. I got pretty jacked. Just eating, sleeping, working out. We would do missions with the medics. So the medics were really the spear, the tip of the spear on that whole COVID-19 response, because they were the ones who were like actually testing people. So we'd go to these locations, people would drive up in their vehicles and they would come through and they would get tested for C-19. So once that happened, once that ball started rolling, like it didn't stop. Like we were on a mission like every day. We had like one day off a week. We would go basically help them. We would distribute the testing kits. So we would basically like put labels on all the testing kits. We'd go into a database, make sure all the information was correct. We'd print it off, we'd label, we'd have to make sure everything was labeled correctly. Usually a testing kit had 2 or 3 things with the same name and information, so we had to make sure that was matching and identical so that you didn't mix up people's names and information. And then the medics would actually be the ones to test people, and we do that. Some days were pretty quick, but most of the time we do that for like 7-8 hours a day. Now towards the end, when things started dying down, after those like 2.5 months, they let people either stay on the mission if they wanted, or you could get off the mission. So because I was in school, even though school was shut down, I could do online classes. I said, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and go back to civilian life. But one of the things too, guys, about COVID, like I said, not really a whole lot to do during that time. Again, we would just basically work out and eat and sleep and maybe play some video games and barely socialize. There was a lot of drinking. I didn't really enjoy drinking I'm not a huge drinker, so I was like, that's not really my thing. I just was like, honestly kind of pissed off because I was having the time of my life, and all of a sudden all this stuff happens, and now I can't go out and do anything. But like I said, that was a blessing in disguise. And looking back, like I go, man, I should have stayed on. But at the time, when you're just doing the same thing over and over, you're going out, like it's super hot, because this is during the summer at this point. You're going out super hot all day. You're helping people. You're doing the same thing over and over. Testing kits. You're sweating, like you're in gear. You're in like all the protective like plastics. You're sweating, like it's terrible. And yeah, I was just like, man, like, hey, like as soon as I can get out of here, cool. Like I want to get but we were getting paid pretty well. That was the cool thing. The military was paying us pretty well. We were getting like per diem. We were getting active duty pay. We were getting pretty sweet pay. It was pretty awesome. And honestly, once it came to an end, I was like, man, like that was kind of, looking back, like, yeah, the circumstances sucked. But like, yeah, that was kind of cool to be around, your buddies making good money, just working out. It was cool. It was just good to be released from that. And once that died down, once I went back to school and everything, things kind of went back to normal. Just worked a part-time job. I was at home until I moved out again for a few more months, and then I got to go to South Korea. So South Korea was really fun. That was a few months after the end of the COVID thing. And man, Korea was really cool. It kind of sucked too, because again, this was all like 2020. So when we went to Korea, they had us quarantined for like 2 weeks. So we couldn't do anything. We were basically like prisoners for 2 weeks. Couldn't go outside. We're stuck in our like little like barrack dorms. It was like 2 people per room, and like 4 people shared one common area, which was like a bathroom and a tiny little kitchen. You were given basically what you eat in basic, MREs, box breakfast. And you got like 1 hot meal a day, which was hit or miss and like no flavor, but you could order pizza. I remember you could order pizza. You could order like fried chicken or something. It was weird. It was like the only 2 things that you could have ordered. And so the soldiers who were in charge of that area, who would, make sure people weren't leaving their rooms and stuff, would come by and, drop off your pizza or whatever. And yeah, it was just it was something. So after that 2 weeks, man, I remember all I did was like you could buy like these internet packages for like $40 because you're in a different country. Most people's like phones don't work, or you have to pay a lot. So you could buy these like extra packages for like $40 or something, and so you could watch like YouTube. You could, and that's all I did for like 2 weeks, to just watch YouTube. I was texting some friends back home and I watched YouTube. That was pretty much it. After that, finally got to go do the 2 week thing in Korea, which was awesome. South Korea is awesome. Love that place. The food is amazing. The people are amazing. It's a beautiful area. It's incredible. I want to go back so bad. And yeah, 2 weeks, got to do some training there. Got to go walk around the base a little bit. Couldn't really go off base. Got to go right outside the base to a little like village market area, which was pretty neat. And yeah, I just got to chill out with some of my battle buddies. They had a really nice gym on base. Got to go to the gym, and every little thing, especially during the C-19, you had to be grateful for. Like everything was incredible. Every little privilege you got was great. Just going to the gym, or being able to go eat somewhere, or just go outside the walls and just kind of go to a little market. Like it was neat. And so after that, guys, I'll be real with you. I had about 2 years left in the Guard. I didn't really do a whole lot after that because the military, there was until the end of my time. So they had to deal with the C-19. They had to deal with the border, and they were still dealing with COVID in a lot of areas. So honestly, after that, it's just, things were just kind of chill. Like you go to drill, you do what you were required to do. But honestly, after the C-19, man, like drill became pretty chill. Like once you got your stuff done, you were released pretty early. That's one of the things about drill too. Like most of the time, you're going to be doing a lot of like nothing. You're going to be sitting around, kind of waiting to go home a lot of days, which is kind of cool. Because if you need to catch up on, let's say you got homework, you want to bring your laptop. A lot of people did school at drill. You just have to be ready if they call you to do something. But again, people are pretty cool, man. But after C-19, man, drill was pretty down to earth. We had a good commander. He understood. He's like, hey, if y'all are done, like just go. I was towards the end of my contract, so they were getting even more lenience with me, and they're like, hey, like you're squared away, go home. Great. Say less. Like I'm out of here. And like that was pretty much it. One of the things I'll say this, guys, about the National Guard, if you want to go National Guard or reserves, like I would highly recommend, and this is totally up to you, even though I love the National Guard and I use it for school, unless you just really want to go to school. And one of the reasons I really wanted to go the National Guard route was because I wanted to go to school. I wanted to go to ROTC. I wanted to go to their SMP, the simultaneous membership program, to be a cadet. And then the National Guard, my goal at the time was to be an officer. And I'll make another video on that. But if I do it all over again, guys, again, it's tough. But knowing what I know now, if I got to go back in time, I'd probably go active duty first. I had a couple sergeants in the National Guard tell me, it's like, dude, like you should have gone active. Like you're squared away, you take this stuff seriously, you should have just gone active. And I was like, huh? Like, okay. It didn't really settle in until I was about halfway through my contract, because the first half of my contract, again, it's a 6-year contract. The first half I was all in. I was all like very what we call hua, very spirit to core, very like all in, very motivated. And about halfway through, it just kind of, I don't know, I kind of petered out, because to me it was like, well, like I'm taking this seriously, but it seems like a lot of people aren't. And I'm gonna be real with you guys. If you're looking for a lot of people to take it super seriously, you're probably not going to find that in the National Guard or reserves. That's not to knock them. That's just saying, like, most people have like lives that they're living, like full lives. They're living outside of drill. They have families. They have work obligations. They have a lot of things going on in the off time. A lot of people, I thought a lot of people would be like me, where they're like going to school full time, working part time, going that route. I didn't realize it was a lot of it was just like, hey, we want to join because of the health insurance. Okay, like, and so if you're looking for a really serious environment, again, I say go active. Look at the jobs out there. Look at what's available. There's a lot of jobs. Do your research. Find one that you think you'd really enjoy for the next 3 to 4 years. Maybe has good carryover to the civilian world. Go from there, because that's going to make the biggest difference for you. And again, you get out of the military what you want out of the military. There are so many untapped resources, and I'm going to make another video on this as well. I know this is changing as time goes on. Even year to year, when I was in it seemed to change. But there's so much out there to take advantage of, and a lot of people don't. And so, guys, that was part 3 of my experience in the military. Once I got out, I was out for about 2 years, 2.5 years, and at the time of making this video, I'm actually currently trying to enlist full-time into the military again. And I have reasons for that. I'm actually gonna make another video on that, which will be part 4. So that'll be sort of a prologue, so to speak, and I'll just go from there. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments, concerns, questions, go ahead and just leave them below. Drop a like, subscribe, and I'll be back at you with the next one.